Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix daily price change prediction video. We come to you every single evening from the Fantasy Football Fix studios to bring you the latest with respect to potential price rises and potential price falls. If you're looking to build up your team value or you just don't want to be priced out of potential moves, look no further than this series and this YouTube channel. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. So guys, if you haven't been watching our last few videos and keeping up to date with them, where have you been? But secondly, we have made a slight change to the format in comparison to what we've done in recent weeks. We're still trying to keep them as short and snappy as possible, but we're trying to basically show you how to check price changes to yourself and do it in the most informative way possible. And therefore, we're going to be screen sharing and showing you what you can do on our site. So for those of you that have never checked price changes yourself, and perhaps you want to, but you just never know what you're looking out for, when you first load onto the page, you'll see this page, which is the dugout. This is the landing page. But if you just want to check for price changes, what you do is you head to price change stats and you can see price change predictor there. If you click on that, you'll come to a list essentially of all of the players in the game and where they're at with respect to their potential price rises and price falls. So if you have never looked at this before, there are a few things you need to keep an eye out for. The first thing is progress. Now, you would have seen in a few of our videos, we'll say along the lines of this person is at 100% progress and therefore, or they're at 40% progress and therefore. In our price change predictions, if someone is over 100%, that means we're predicting them to rise in price. And if they're below minus 100%, that means we are predicting them to fall in price. Now, again, I'm using the word predictions because this is not an exact science. We are predicting based on an algorithm. So this means, in our opinion, based on our algorithm, we predict them to rise. Now, the other thing, apart from progress, is progress per hour, because somebody doesn't need to be at 100% if they're rising at quite a high percentage per hour. And it means that by the time the price changes happen at 2:30 a.m. British summertime, they might have risen in price. So a good example of this was at around 1 p.m. on the day that Ronaldo was unlocked. He was at about 5% progress. But because he was rising at something like 30% per hour, it meant that by the time the price changes happened, we expected him to be above 100%. So they're the two things to keep your eye on. And if they're too confusing for you, what you can do is you can look at change time, which is basically we're combining those two things and letting you know, based on the current transfer activity, what we're expecting to happen. So what I often do is when I log onto the page, what I'll do is I'll just order it by change time. And you can see all the players that are predicted to rise or fall in price tonight. So that's what we're going to do here. You can see there's actually only, I think this is the first time this has happened this season, there's only one player predicted to rise in price tonight, and that is Ismaila Sarr, who obviously got 15 points in this game week. It's just finished that game, 15 points, massive haul. For those of you that went Benrahma to Sarr or something like that, you've been rewarded. I unfortunately decided to roll my transfer and I didn't go Benrahma to Sarr, so I'm a bit gutted about that. But you can see, Sarr is at 80%, so he's not at that 100% threshold, but he is rising at 2.3% per hour. Therefore, by the time tonight comes around, if that transfer activity continues at that rate, we are predicting that Sarr will rise in price tonight. Now, of course, if the transfer activity slows down this evening and he doesn't continue to rise at that rate, then he might not rise tonight. And this is why it's so important that, obviously, I'm recording this video at about 6 p.m. So by the time 12 p.m. comes along, or like 12 a.m., sorry, or 1 a.m., by the time you might actually make your transfers, it might have completely changed by then. So this is why it's so important to check for yourselves. Anyway, Sarr is the only one predicted to rise in price tonight, but there are a lot of predicted fallers. As you can see, there's a long list of them here, all very close to being minus 100, and they're falling at a rate that thinks that we think that they will fall in price tonight. There aren't really that many of note. Of course, you can check for yourself, but none of these players have particularly high ownership. I think Emi Martinez is the one that has the highest ownership, but I think a lot of the more serious managers would have transferred him out already, but it's worth keeping an eye on there. You can see it goes onto the second page here. Potentially the one that a few people might still own is Callum Wilson. If you haven't already shipped him out, he does look like he's injured long term, so I would sell him. Some other noticeable changes as well. Duffy looks like he could rise in tomorrow, go up to 4.3. He's at 89% progress at the time of recording. Lukaku is close to a price rise as well, so if he does anything against Spurs, it would probably go up to 11.7. And of course, that man Ronaldo as well looks like he's close to another rise. So both Lukaku and Ronaldo could be 11.7 and 12.7 respectively by tomorrow night, but we'll discuss them in more detail tomorrow. Some other cheaper players that you might have on your watch list and something that are definitely worth keeping an eye on. Dennis, after I think he got 1 or 2 returns today, so very, very impressive performance from him. He looks like he could be rising tomorrow. It's very unlikely to be tonight. Damari Gray, who's playing at the time of me recording this, if he does absolutely anything in that game, he could potentially rise in price tonight. And St. Maximan, after his little haul yesterday, could definitely be rising in price soon. But again, these players that I've just mentioned here, Duffy, Lukaku, Ronaldo, Dennis, Gray, and St. Maximan, they don't look like they're going to rise tonight. It will probably be tomorrow or Monday. But this is what you can do. So you can sort it by change time. You can sort it by progress per hour. You can do whatever you want. The other interesting thing you can do is once you've logged on to the site, you can just look at your squad. So I can see here any of my players looking like they're going to fall in price or rise in price. And you can see, no, there's absolutely no one there. So that's absolutely great. And then you can have a look at your watch list as well. So what I've done here is I've just set a watch list for budget midfielders because I might potentially be selling Ben Rama if he is injured because there's rumours that he might be injured, or Rafinha if Rafinha's injured. So I've just set a watch list here based on cheap budget midfielders that I could bring in to replace one of those two players. And you can see here, you can see the change time on them. So Sarr is the only one that looks likely, although Damari Gray could be close if he does anything in the game tonight. So this is really, really important to do. I think check your price changes. It allows you to build up team value. One that I just wanted to quickly bring your attention to is you can see Mikel Antonio is locked in price. And you may be thinking, why is Mikel Antonio locked in price? He was just injured, no, he's not. And that is enough to lock a player. When a player goes from being red flagged to available, they are locked in price for that game week. So by the old rules, unless there's a sudden change, Antonio will be locked in price for this game week. So you don't have to worry about him falling potentially, although I don't think many more managers will be selling him. But if you're not sure about the rules, you can see on our site, we tell you when a player's locked in price. You know, you don't have to panic about them. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little quick stop tour of how to look at price changes and what we're looking at. Today's focus, though, in the next section is going to be Ismaila Sarr. Should we be bringing him in? If so, should we do it tonight? And are there any different alternatives to Ismaila Sarr? So as I said, we're going to focus on these in this last couple of sections on Ismaila Sarr and whether we should bring him in, who are the possible alternatives, and are we just being reactionary by bringing him in based off his 15-pointer. So the first thing I just wanted to, the first tool that I wanted to use to compare is the fixed comparison matrix, which if you just go to the top here, you can see fixed stats. If you click on fixed comparison matrix, it takes you to this page. Now, the reason that I like this, and I know a lot of people like using this, is because it's colorful, it's got nice graphics, it's a nice, easy comparison between players, and it allows you to customize completely about what you're looking at. So when you first come to it, the first thing that I would do is pick the player that you're interested in comparing to. So we want to compare Ismaila Sarr here. So you can just type in Sarr straight away, bring him up, and you can see there isn't that much information in that box because we haven't customized anything. But the things you do have is projected points over the next 5 game weeks, which is how many points the fixed algorithm thinks he's going to score. So 20.2 points, around 4 points per game week. That's pretty good, but not great. But obviously at 6 million, what more can you expect? And you can also see the price change is 80% predicted, and he's predicted to rise tonight. So it's a nice way, if you don't want to go to price prediction, then to stats, you can compare everything on one single page. Now, what you can also see is the intelligent suggestion. Who do we want to compare? It suggests players at similar price points, similar projected points. It's intelligent. It suggests who they think, or the algorithm thinks you should be comparing with. So these are the players that I want to compare with. So Gallagher's an interesting one. He's performing really well. Damari Gray, I know, is very popular around a similar price point. Decore's a great one, of course. And I think Ben Rama's a nice one. Again, we don't know if he's injured or not, but I think he's a nice comparison to make because he's performed pretty well, and West Ham do have good fixtures coming up. So if you select the 5 of those, it comes up like this. And the first thing I would note is Ismaila Sarr is projected to get the most points over the next 5 game weeks. That is a mixture of his underlying stats being relatively good, probably him being on penalties, definitely the fact that he's nailed for pretty much 90 minutes in most games. And the fixtures are just pretty good for Watford over the next few. So you can see that in itself is a really useful comparison to make. But then you can see, if you just scroll down a little bit, you can select stats. So there are so many different stats to compare. I mean, like hundreds of different Opta stats. Or again, you can just go for intelligent suggestion. And then you can do show totals or show average per game. So we'll do show average per game just to negate for minutes differences. And you can see, for an example, you might just want to do goals. So you can see the best 2 performers are Gray and Sarr based on goals. But you know we like to do underlying statistics. And you've got like an FPL section at the bottom. So you can see Fantasy Premier League. So you might want to do based on, what's a good one? FPL points. You can see straight away, and it just adds them on. And you can compare them based on so many different things. You can see Conor Gallagher is top for 9.3. My favourite is expected FPL points, I think is a really nice one. Let's see if we can find that one here quickly. Not going to be able to find it quickly, am I? There are just so many things to compare. Successful final third passes, things like this are really useful. It takes your statistical comparison to that next level. You can see Ben Rama's leading here, but Sarr is performing really well in all of these. So you can stack your stats up, make these really nice comparisons. I think it's really useful. What I would say, without delving too much into this, is it just shows that Ismaila Sarr is a great option over the next 5 game weeks. Now, whilst I do love the fixed comparison matrix, I have a very, very soft spot for touch maps, heat maps, shot maps. Now, the reason I like this is I feel like it's a really good unison between eye test and statistics. I think each of them have their own advantages, but touch maps are a really nice one because you can watch a game and think, I think someone got in some good positions, did they? And you can look at the stats and it might not necessarily agree, but touch maps are great. Are they getting into the box? Are they performing centrally, etc., etc.? So I'd like to test your knowledge, and I'll do a little bit of a guess game here. I've got 2 heat maps on screen, 2 touch maps. What I'd like you to do is try and guess which 2 touch maps I'm looking at. Which 2 players am I comparing here? On the left and on the right. So pause the video, have a little guess. And you might think both look fairly similar. Both are obviously right wingers. Both are getting into the box a lot. You would say the one on the right is slightly better, but they are very comparable. Now, the 2 players that I'm comparing here across the first 5 game weeks are Ismaila Sarr on the left and Mohamed Salah on the right. Now, I'm not for a second trying to claim that Sarr is similar in any way really to Salah. I'm trying to basically claim that he's better than Salah. What I would say is he does like to stay quite wide on the right, but he is starting to get into the box a lot. This little section, that little cluster in the box, a lot of those were touches in the first few game weeks, but it's so impressive that he gets into those fantastic positions. Yes, he plays very wide, but he is starting to cut inside, and obviously got 15 points this game week. It shows that he is getting into the box quite a lot. So it's really nice to compare different players. Now, obviously, Sarr and Salah probably isn't the best comparison. That was just for a bit of fun. But what you can do is you can select Sarr, and then you can select a different player for the second one. So perhaps this time we want to select Conor Gallagher, who's a good option there. You can see straight away nowhere near as many like touches in the box centrally. Sorry, on the right, but there are some more central touches. He obviously drops a little bit deeper because he's playing as a number 8 as opposed to a winger. Perhaps a more direct comparison might be someone like, let's move along to someone like Demarai Gray, who we know is a winger. So if we compare Ismaila Sarr and Demarai Gray, obviously Demarai Gray at the time of recording this has played 1 less game than Ismaila Sarr. But you can see straight away he's not getting into the box anywhere near as much. His touches are a lot more spread out. Ismaila Sarr is a very obvious position for Watford. And obviously you don't just need to look at touch maps. There's so many other things. You can look at shots. So straight away, if we compare their shots, again, Ismaila Sarr has taken so many more shots in the box. It's exactly what you want. Demarai Grays are a lot of outside the box. And also, if you just hover over the different ones, you can see what their expected goal statistic was. So for this one here, where he was assisted by a king today, he had an expected goal of 0.29. So you can see that as well, I think is really nice. Touches is another very interesting one. You can see straight away Ismaila Sarr has had a lot more touches than Demarai Gray. He's very talismanic for Watford, you would say. So you would expect him to have more touches. As well as that, you can compare them on different radars. But just the final thing I want to look at is basically a comparison per 90. So these stats at the bottom are per 90. Again, it negates for differences in playing time. And you can see on a lot of the key matrices what the comparison between the two. And you can see the only thing that Demarai Gray wins on is goals per 90, which again is just higher than Ismaila Sarr. Assists per 90, but there aren't any. Neither of them have had any assists. And big chances created, which is 0 for both. So really, the only thing he's out on top of is goals, but it's literally only 0.04. So when you make these comparisons, you start to realize that if you were choosing between Sarr and Gray, there is an obvious winner here, and it's Ismaila Sarr. And I think this page, just with a combination of touch maps, heat maps, shot maps, and then all of the underlying statistics, comparing them on these different radars as well, this is what I use. And personally, I've just gone through before I recorded this video, and I was looking at all of the different players in comparison to Ismaila Sarr. And I've got to admit, I don't think there are many better budget options than Ismaila Sarr. And he is rising in price tonight, probably, potentially tomorrow night. So I might be taking the punt on him. If Benrahma or Rafinha are injured long term, I'll almost definitely be going for Ismaila Sarr. So guys, there you have it. Those are the predicted price rises, not many of them, and the predicted price falls for this evening. Please do let us know, give us feedback. Do you prefer shorter videos? Do you prefer longer videos? Do you think it's useful to just screen record and show you through the site, or do you prefer some different graphics? We're trying to tailor this series to you, and we'll be going through a few different options over the coming weeks, but we want your feedback as much as possible. We want to make this your series. So any feedback, let us know in the comments. If you are enjoying the daily content and all of the different series that we're running, please do like, comment, and subscribe to the channel and enable push notifications. And of course, if you want to check price changes for yourself, head over to our website at fantasyfootballfix.com and do what I've done today, or you can download our free app and enable push notifications, which is another great way to stay up to date with price changes. But until next time, thank you very much, guys. Cheers.